Mysteries, especially ones with wild theories, are fascinating. However, thanks to scientific explorations, many previously unsolved mysteries have now been debunked. Here is a list of 10 unsolvable mysteries that have now been solved. Number 1. The Sleepy Hollows of Kazakhstan. Residents of 2 villages in northern Kazakhstan have been struck by a strange sleeping illness since 2012. People would suddenly fall asleep during regular activities and remain in slumber for several days at a time. They would wake up with no memories of that period. Even pets fell prey to the illness. After 3 years of research, scientists figured out the culprit: an abandoned Soviet-era uranium mine in the area. Carbon monoxide and other hydrocarbons from the abandoned mine wafted into the air, causing oxygen levels to drop in the villages, and this ultimately led to the sleeping epidemic. Number 2. The Sailing Stones of Death Valley. For many years, the California Death Valley National Park heavy stones would appear to sail across a dried lake bed on their own. They would leave behind a trail as proof. Since no one had seen them move and there was no conclusive evidence, many conspiracy theories sprang up which involved explanations from space aliens to telekinesis. As it turns out, it is just a combination of strong winds, ice, water, and changing temperature. Through a GPS system, scientists found that on sunny days, the frozen lake would begin to thaw slowly. Light winds would propel the embedded rocks forward, thereby creating the trail. Number 3. Fairy circles in Namibia and Western Australia. In certain areas of southern Africa and Western Australia, there are circular patches of barren land surrounded by grass resembling polka dots. Dubbed fairy circles, the locals believe that these are footprints of God or other divine beings. Scientists claim that the most acceptable explanation comes from a computer simulation that found that the rings can be explained by using insect colonies and plant behavior. The simulation pointed to a species of termites that colonize by constructing honeycomb patterns in these areas and feeding on roots of grass. Simultaneously, natural competition among desert plants leads to the roots spreading out in search of water, creating these patterns. Number 4. The Bloop Sound from the ocean. Back in 1997, scientists from the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration recorded one among the loudest unidentified sounds in the depths of the Pacific Ocean. Underwater microphones spread across 3,000 miles all captured the same noise. Wild theories to explain the bloop emerged from an undiscovered sea monster to underwater military expeditions. Eventually, after almost 10 years, researchers found that it was the sound of an ice quake, the cracking and separating of ice from an Antarctic glacier. Number 5. The Blood Rain of Kerala. In 2001, the Indian state of Kerala received periodic rains that were blood red in color for about 3 months. This had happened before in 1896 and would reoccur in 2012, affecting some parts of Sri Lanka as well that year. Locals in Kerala said the showers were accompanied by trees shedding leaves that seemed burnt. One hypothesis proposed the rains could be due to an exploding meteor, while others blamed it on aliens. As it turns out, airborne spores from lichen-forming green algae found formerly only in Austria caused the red rain. Scientists supposed that clouds from that Central European country carried the spores to India and Sri Lanka. Number 6. Animal rain. The idiom "raining cats and dogs" is not merely a bizarre phrase. There are real reports of small animals having dropped from the sky like rain. In 1861, fish reportedly rained from the sky in Singapore. More recently, Sri Lanka has witnessed fish and prawn rains, while China had an assortment of marine animals fall from up above. This is not the wrath of the gods, but what scientists say could be a simple natural phenomenon of tornadic water sprouts. When whirlwinds or small tornadoes travel over a water body, they suck up everything, including little creatures living within. Eventually, when the clouds begin to disperse, the animals come tumbling down as well. Number 7. The Devil's Kettle Waterfall. In Minnesota's north shore of Lake Superior is a waterfall that has baffled scientists and common folk for decades. On its way down, the Devil's Kettle Waterfall splits in two, with one branch cascading into a pool like a regular waterfall, while the other plummets into a solid rock and then seems to disappear into nowhere. People have tossed twigs, ping pong balls, and other materials to see whether it could resurface somewhere, to no avail. After some tests, hydrologists concluded that the water does not vanish, but instead rejoins the lake below. They conducted tests to check the volume of water at points where the falls begin and end. The volume results at both places were almost the same, indicating that all the water ends up in the lake, although they aren't sure from where exactly it resurfaces. Number 8. The Abydos hieroglyphics of helicopters. In an ancient Egyptian archaeological site called Abydos, the temple of Seti I has strange hieroglyphs that seem to depict helicopters and other technologically advanced carvings. Since these sites are thousands of years old, built around 1300 BCE, the carvings have prompted theories of time travel and the common fallback, aliens, who helped Egyptians develop these advanced machines. Though the carvings are real, it does not mean our interpretations are correct. Egyptologists say that the images are a result of recarvings and erosion. After the Seti I period, the stones were reused in the Ramses II period. That, combined with stone erosion over time, may have resulted in the unique glyphs. If Egyptians did have such advanced transportation, there would be evidence in more than one inscription, wouldn't there? Number 9. The Whale Graveyard in Chile. In 2010, a construction crew discovered a large whale graveyard near a Pan-American highway in the Atacama region of Chile. Scientists unearthed at least 40 whales of varying species on their backs with almost complete skeletons. They also found billfish, seals, and aquatic sloths. Not only is the Atacama one of the driest places in the world, but the site was at least a kilometer from the ocean. For a while, scientists could only speculate what was responsible for the mass graveyard. Eventually, they found it was the result of mass stranding of sea creatures on 4 different instances that occurred millions of years ago. Research pointed to evidence that the animals were poisoned by toxic algae, washed into an estuary, and then had been buried under the flat sand over time, creating the graveyard. Number 10. The Iron Pillar in Delhi. There is an iron pillar in Delhi, India, that was forged about 1600 years ago, but has barely rusted to this date. Ancient carvings on the pillar are still intact. Many archaeologists and material scientists have studied its properties to understand what lends it this advantage. Recently, Indian scientists found that ancient iron makers used charcoal instead of limestone while processing, which led to a higher phosphorus content in their iron. This led to the formation of a thin protective layer called mesawite, which they claim would have developed within 3 years of the pillar's casting. Since then, the layer has grown about 1/20th of a millimeter, and it still shields the metal from corrosion, a testament to the excellent metallurgic skills of ancient Indian ironsmiths. While there are many other mysteries that are yet to be solved, the ones above certainly have logical explanations. What are some other interesting mysteries that you know that have been solved?
If you enjoyed watching this video, please like, comment, and share. Also, to get our posts regularly in your newsfeed, Please set your default newsfeed to See First.